Okay, welcome to the broadcast, everybody. We are talking about a little bit of category troubleshooting today, and we've got other trainings that teach you guys about how to edit and manipulate product categories on your site. Um, an example, we're actually just using kind of a sample site right now, but let's assume this is sort of a home furnishing site or something, and we've got these three categories on our site so far that we've installed: accent furniture, garden decor, and lamps. But in the process of adding and editing more categories, I stumble upon this issue right here, and let me show you what I'm talking about. I go to inventory and categories, and let's say I'm coming to add a brand new one. Okay, so I come here and I hit the add button to create a new category, and I'm putting in the name. This is going to be my whatever. We'll call this accent tables category. Okay, and as I come down and look, I notice something that looks kind of funny. Have you guys ever seen something that looks kind of like that before? This right here, where it shows this repeating issue. Okay, now these are showing as test 1, test 2, test 1, test 2, test 1, test 2, but those are because I created those categories a minute ago. If you've done a lot of category work, at one point or another, you may come across this. And it's like, well, why is that showing up, right? And it's usually because there's a circular problem that I'll explain to you here in just a second. So if while you're adding categories you do ever come up against this, just know that there is a fix for it. But I want you guys to understand why it's showing up this way. Okay, see all of this rubbish right here? It looks like something is broken on Volusion, but in fact it's not Volusion's fault. It was probably your fault for making just a small error while you were adding these categories. Let me explain. So let's go back to inventory and categories. Let's leave the page. Whenever I'm having an issue with any of my categories, I always come to this section right here. So let me just make sure that we're clear on what we're looking at right now. Okay, I first went to inventory, right? And I selected categories. That brought me here. Now I'm going to click on this one right here. How many of you guys who are here live with me use this view list section or know what it is? Any of you guys using that? You can do some category manipulation from this nav menu section, but most of you guys probably use it a fair bit. I certainly do. And certainly when there's a problem with my categories, I come check it out. So let's click View List. View List is like it's your main category section. This is where you can learn everything you need to know about your existing categories on the site. Right now, guys, how many categories do I have that have names right now? 5, right? Well, let's count test 1 and test 2 as real categories. So if we count those, then I have 5, don't I? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Don't mind these blank categories right here. These are my 5 categories that I have. Okay? Now, I want you to notice something about this section right here. Somebody explain to me what this is. What's that section for? It's your category ID, right? Okay, so based on this then, accent furniture has a category ID of what? 106, right? Test 2, this category that I created, their category ID is 110. Can there be two categories that both have a category ID of the same thing? Could I have two 110s? No, right? That's absolutely impossible. Is it possible that I can have two names that are exactly the same? That is possible, isn't it? So you have to remember when you're manipulating categories, just remember here's the rule. Category IDs, you can only have one, and there will be no other number but just that one that's unique to that category ID. But you can have multiple names that have different numbers, right? Are we clear on that so far? Okay, because that sometimes gets confusing. Now you might ask yourself, well, in what circumstance would you have a category that has the same name several times? Well, here's one. Let's pretend for a minute you've got a let's say you're selling outdoor goods, or it doesn't even have to be outdoor goods. Let's use this example. Let's say you're selling clothing. Okay, and you've organized your site to where you've got categories where one is your shirts category, one is your, let's say you have a sweater category, let's say you have a pants category, right? You've got all these different categories of clothing. And the way you've chosen to organize it is that under each of those main categories, you have a subcategory underneath each that has name brands, right? Maybe I have a Nike shirt category, but I also have a Nike pants and a Nike sweater category. Those are three separate categories, but they all have the same name of Nike. Each one just has something different on it. But the point is, there are circumstances where you may have the same category name multiple times. But I can tell you for sure, what makes it not confusing is I can always come in here and I can identify very quickly the category ID. Okay. Okay, so I just want to make sure that's clear first. Now I want you to look at something here. Let me get all of my red off of the page here. I want you to look at something here about these two and tell me what doesn't make sense here. So you have test 1 and test 2. They both have unique categories, right? One is 110, one is 109. So that's correct. There's no issue there. But I want you to notice the parent ID category or section. That means that when you have a parent ID, so in this case, let's take test 2. Test 2 is category 110, but it says its parent category is 109. What does that mean about test 2? It means that test 2 is a subcategory to test 1. Right? That's your main, that's what test 2 is. They're 110, but their parent is 109. Well, who's 109? Test 1 is 109, right? Okay, so that works, but here's the problem. Test 1 has a parent who is 110. But wait a minute, their parent is test 2. There's the problem with the loop, correct? Do you remember earlier, just a second ago, let me actually pull open another window. I'm going to erase what we just drew. Remember, just a second ago, we were looking here at adding a category, and as we were adding one, you know, we're going to call this category test 3, and look what happened. You see the looping issue here? It goes in both directions. You've got these two submenus right here. Right now, I want to just make test 3 a subcategory of something, but you see all this gibberish. Well, that comes from that circular issue that I just explained a minute ago. And believe it or not, you guys might think, well, how did that ever get set up that way? I'll show you how I actually made that mistake. But the bottom line is, if you ever see this issue, no matter how you got to it, if you ever see it, you can fix it. You just have to go where we were just a second ago, right here, and you have to find where the circular issue is. If test 2 is category 110, but their parent is 109, and 109 is test 1, you have to make sure test 1 isn't a submenu of test 2. That's the circular issue. Okay? So what can you do about this problem at this point? Well, you could delete both categories and just start fresh if you wanted. I could delete them both out and I could just redo my work. Or I could come in here and just, I could edit these categories and make sure that, I can, did you see, that was a little fast. Let me do that one more time. See where it says parent ID right here? Here, see how I can hit edit? And if something doesn't have a submenu, if test 1 was never supposed to be a submenu, I could just put a 0 right here, and I could hit save on that. And if that's been done, the next time I go out to edit or edit a category or whatever, in fact, let me do that. Let's go back to categories, view list. Actually, let's add a category. You see how the circular issue is now gone. Does that make sense, guys? So now, if I'm adding a new category, this is test 3. Test 3 can either be a submenu of test 1, or it could be a submenu of test 2. Who is a submenu of test 1? Does that make sense? I know that sounds kind of confusing, but now we know the issue is fixed because you don't have that repeating circular issue. That right there is the #1 cause for concerns when doing lots of categories. Some of you guys have this very extensive website that has multiple top-level categories and then lots of submenus and then even some subs. And so sometimes somewhere in that mix, while you were building out all of that, you made a simple mistake and on your own created that circular issue that we just looked at together. At least you have an idea of where it came from and how to fix it. Okay. Here's the second issue. Okay, I'm going to stop the screen share for just a second, so it should be paused. Let me clean up a couple of things while you guys aren't watching. Let's delete. Hold on, almost ready, guys. Okay. Now let me share my screen again. Okay, so we're sitting on a website right now. Here's the 3 categories we were talking about a second ago. Oh, Jan, I don't think you were the inspiration. I think there were like 4 of you guys this week. Jan just said she was honored to be the inspiration for the training. Well, I don't think it was actually just you this time, Jan. It was realistically 4 of you that I've gotten this question about this week. So you're in good company because you're not the only one who made that mistake. It happens all the time, and every time it happens, I feel like I have to call you or like get in there and fix it myself or email an explanation. And I finally decided, you know what? I want to really be able to get in here and show you guys how to fix it. So in that way, you definitely were some of my inspiration for what we're doing. So thank you. All right. So what about this issue? Okay, here's a new one. Let's pretend you're looking at your site here and you click on one of your categories. And you come in, and have you ever noticed sometimes that on your categories, you clicked on the category and you have a description underneath your products here on this category. But let's say you go out to your garden decor category and you see no descriptions. It's got a nice clean look, right? See how nice that looks on that garden decor category? But if you're over on accent furniture, do you notice how it's a little more cluttery because it's got this description right here and this description right here. Have you guys ever noticed that issue, that there's sometimes a little bit of inconsistency on the way your categories are formatted that way? Some will have the description showing, others will have the nice clean look. And you wonder to yourself, well, wait a minute, what did I actually do wrong here? I thought I set these up correctly. Well, you probably did, but there might have been just one little step that you were missing while you were setting them up. Okay, let me show you what that step is, because this happens a lot, and I get this question a lot. Some of you are going to say, oh, this is a no-brainer, and that's fine because we've showed it before, but I want to show it again. Guys, you have on every time you do a category, you have to make sure you edit some of the settings of that category. Okay, so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to edit this category right here, all right? And once I'm here, by the way, you'll notice when I edited the category, look what it shows me here. It shows me the ID. So I know exactly what the ID is in case I need it for troubleshooting a problem later on, but that's the ID. Anyway, let me scroll down the page, and I'm going to come down here to advanced info. So I'm going to make sure I've selected advanced info, and then I'm going to click on this one right here, product display. All right. Okay. Clicked on product display. Now you guys know this. I know a lot of you know this. You have to change some of these settings, don't you? What settings do we have to change here? Advanced info, product display. What settings need to be changed to get that nice clean look? This one right here. This one right here. And this one right here. Okay, those three. And what do we change them to? Responsive grid. And then we do no and no on the bottom two. Okay? Guys, does that make sense? Let me get my writing off here. Responsive grid, no, and no. If you don't do that, you will have descriptions actually show up. You need all of your formatting to be the same, okay? If you want descriptions to show up on your category pages, I suppose that's okay. I actually prefer and think it gives a nice, clean, simple look if you don't. If you make sure that it's got that clean look by changing these settings. Now, you can't just do it once. This is per category. Every single category you create, you must have these settings in place. So if you've created 25 categories, but you haven't done this yet, go back and do it. It'll take you 5 minutes. Edit each individual category, change the settings. That then creates that nice, simple look that we've been talking about, which I suppose I should go out and just show you one more time so we're all clear on it. If I go to accent and furniture, we've got the descriptions here. If I go to lamps, we have no descriptions. It's got a nice clean look. If I click on one of these lamps, I'm going to get a description, okay? So there's not really a need to have the description twice. We're going to get it. We're going to give it to the people anyway, but they need to click on the product page, okay? Guys, does that make sense? I mean, those two issues probably creep up on me several times a week from different clients, and I think, well, to some extent, these are issues that we addressed in other trainings, but I certainly can't expect you guys to remember everything, right? You're learning so much, and this software is brand new. I felt like we should just dedicate a training to making some of these adjustments, okay? So I hope that helped. I'll stick around just for another couple minutes for those of you guys who are here live to answer a few questions if you have any, but otherwise, that's the only thing I wanted to cover on the recording. If you're watching this recorded, hope that helped.